Boom, what's up everyone? Welcome to Simulation. We are going to be talking about Jeff Bezos today and our thoughts on him. And let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, as you guys know, Jeff Bezos is now the richest man in the world, and he recently had a really powerful interview in Washington, D.C. And I was watching that and I was realizing how much I actually respect a lot of the way that he carries himself and what he's building into the world. And I think we hear a lot in the news about things that are going really badly for so many people that work with Amazon, but rarely do we hear about all of the great success that it's bringing. So let's go ahead and unpack this in the nuance and in the detail. So, all right, the first thing that I think is really important to mention, this is an image from the Economic Club in DC where he just had that conversation. It was a really, really good hour-long fireside chat. Highly recommend watching it. And the first thing that I noticed from watching Jeff here was that he frequently referenced heart and intuition along with science. And I think that when someone openly talks about heart and intuition, I think that showcases some vulnerability, that showcases some ability to tap into energy that is not necessarily following the scientific method. So, and this is kind of these subjective perceptions, and I think these are really important to highlight, these feelings, these emotions, what it feels like to go from intuition, that type of stuff. So I think it's very powerful that Jeff Bezos was openly talking about that along with science in the whole process of things. So, as you guys know, okay, so we have now, richest man worth over $100 billion. Amazon's market cap's now over $1 trillion. One of the first things that he was doing here that I thought was really interesting as well is with this, with the interlocutor that was talking to him, they were poking fun at Jeff, what happens when your credit card gets declined? Jeff's like, I just use my other credit card, and they're just making fun of him, being wealthy in this case, and he was playing along with it and that kind of stuff, and I think that's really important to be able to do, to not distance yourself, but rather embody it. And embody sort of the humor around these types of things. So, okay, so now check this out. He quoted him, this is a quote for him. He said that I've made over $860 billion of wealth for other people. And I think that's really important to highlight here and understand is that not only do you as an Amazon Prime member get access to an inventory of millions of items at the click of a button shipped to your doorstep in 2 days, which we gotta be so grateful for that, but also the fact that now over $860 billion of wealth has been created for other people over the last 20 years that Amazon has been around. That's a lot of wealth created for other people. That's a lot of products delivered in 2 days for people around the world. So these are just important things to remember as we have a nuance-driven conversation around Jeff Bezos. So, if you guys remember this photo here is from the OG days of Jeff Bezos in his office in the late 90s building Amazon. And this is so funny because this is like what a lot of startups look like. It's so accurate. It's just, a dude behind a desk or a chick behind a desk on a computer building something that they think is powerful, that they think is really important to them, that they think other people are going to really like to enjoy, something of high value to society. And so these are the tough days. When you look at an image like this, it is when someone, he left a hedge fund in New York City to build Amazon. And it was a really funny story because he met his, then wife Mackenzie there at the hedge fund, and then just this general idea that everyone was calling him crazy, that he understood that most of our regrets in life are from the paths that we didn't get to travel down. And so the path that he wanted to travel down that he thought that he would regret would be never becoming an entrepreneur. And he did here, and we always talk about that on the show, is become an entrepreneur, go and create. Entrepreneurship is the best thing you'll ever do. And so by taking big risks like this, you have a very high likelihood of getting a reward if you are very intelligent about how you go about things. A lot of startups also fail though. But anyway, just coming back at how funny this is, there's this, spray painted Amazon.com sign in the background. It's just very funny. And it's also very indicative of what really hard work over 20 years does. Enough with the instant gratification economy BS. We have been building simulation for a year, and I'm not fretting anymore about, oh my gosh, we don't have these crazy, insanely success metrics of followers and money and all this stuff. I'm over it. It's been a year. This is what happens in 20 years. You build $1 trillion company. It doesn't happen overnight. So you got to really hustle your ass off for 20 years to be able to see your fruits, to see the value that you've brought to the world at these grander scales. So really have long-term vision and long-term delayed gratification as you just pursue your passion. And he pursued it in the internet era. Most people don't know this, but the reason why Amazon started the way it did was because Jeff saw that a bookstore could only have 150,000 books at most, but at any time there's 3 million books in circulation. So he thought, I'm going to make a catalog of all the books available on the internet, and anyone can just go and click a button and get that book delivered to them. And Jeff would go and pack up the books himself and drive them to the store. And so it's just a very, you got to be on the ground, scraping the gum, doing the hard shit when it first starts. And then you got to respect other people that join your team. Kevin O'Leary was recently talking about this as well, and I really respect him a lot as well. It's just the notion that once you have customers, customers are number one, you're number two. Once you have employees, employees are number two, you're number three. Once you have shareholders, they're up number three and you're number four. So it's customers, employees, shareholders are all above the entrepreneur, the CEO, and that's really important to remember. They are the priority, not you. You are building a business. Your business is the priority, something that you're building with value that goes past you and past your impact. So anyway, so he solved that problem, and then he started selling books. Past books, he went to music, he went to videos, he went to electronics, he went to toys. And as you see here, this is an image of the warehouse. And in this Amazon fulfillment warehouse, they not only have all these toys and electronics and books and all this different stuff, but they have some of the world's leading technology that enables the warehouses and the logistics to operate seamlessly. This has been very, very difficult to design and engineer. And I just want to put a lot of attention on this because it's not easy to have massive distribution warehouses, massive amounts of inventory, knowing where they get coordinated and moved once someone buys it across the world. And so here's one aspect of the technology that I think is really important. These little orange boxes that you see underneath of the blue stacks that are moving, those are what are called Kiva robots. These robots will go to the different areas in the warehouses when an order gets placed, and they will go and bring the stack of goods that is placed to the packager. So without getting so much into the distribution and logistics, just imagine how insanely complicated it is to run all these variables, to have robots and humans working cohesively and shipping the products in 2 days to people across the world. This is very impressive stuff, and we need to be very grateful that this exists with the click of a button. All right. A lot of people also aren't familiar with Amazon Web Services. They offer a massive cloud computing service that is a lot of their revenue. And so just Amazon Web Services is used by a lot of people. So definitely check them out. They can probably be very useful for your business, and they're very useful for so many people's businesses. So again, thank you greatly for Amazon Web Services being around as well. So he also announced that he has a philanthropic gift at this fireside chat that he had in Washington, D.C. He announced a $2 billion philanthropic gift for early education and for homelessness. And so, again, Bezos doesn't know exactly how much of his wealth he's going to give away. He's really focused on Blue Origin, which we're going to get to after we talk about Whole Foods and Washington Post. But he is slowly giving away things like this $2 billion philanthropic gift for early education, which he cares a lot about. And he had this very powerful quote of, and this is something that we're writing about right now in our book Time, is that the notion that the compounding effect occurs on a child's mind. If the child is 2, if they're 3 years old, if they're 4 years old, and they're learning these really powerful themes about art and music and writing and language and culture and science and math and history and just getting all these things at young ages, it compounds over the entirety of their life. So that's why he cares a lot about early education. And homelessness is very important in Seattle, just like it is in San Francisco and LA and New York. We have a lot to work out here in this country. Okay, so moving on. Now we're gonna just quick right before we get to Whole Foods. I want to talk about the customer-centric approach. Jeff has been hammering this in over and over again in his conversation that Amazon focuses on the customer, and I mentioned that when we were talking about this ranking system, but focusing on the customer and the customer's needs are crucial. By doing that, that's how you build a community, that's how you build value, that's how you show them that you care about them first. And so he did these things like he would send a survey out to 1,000 of his customers and say, hey, what would you want us to sell next on Amazon? And people would just tell him, oh, I want a bike, or I want this or that. And so people would tell him what they're looking for next, in kitchen supplies and in warehouse supplies and all this different stuff. So he just started understanding that he should sell as much stuff as he could then. He has two different distinct ways of seeing things. He called people either missionaries or mercenaries, and I really like this understanding. A mercenary is someone that is kind of like a megalomaniac, someone that's just trying to get there for power, greed, money, fame, that type of stuff. And then a missionary is someone that's building the vision, building the impact, and building it purposefully because it gives them meaning, it gives society meaning and value, and you can totally feel the difference in a human being when you approach them and you see which one they're focused on, which one are they focused on. And so really tap into that intuitive heart energy, that feeling you get from someone when you're with them. Are they doing this as a mercenary or are they doing this as a missionary? Which one? Okay. Let's move on to Whole Foods. So Whole Foods this is an insanely large acquisition that occurred, and I believe it was like a $26 billion acquisition. It was a huge acquisition, and so I want to do Whole Foods Amazon acquisition. I want to know the exact price. I think that was right. No, it was 13.7 billion. It was Microsoft bought LinkedIn for $26 billion, and Amazon bought Whole Foods for 13.7, which is a massive acquisition. It's a huge number. $14 billion is a lot of money, and the reason why this acquisition happened, in my opinion, is because I think that Jeff Bezos very intelligently knows that he sells right now. Amazon consists of 40% of all online sales are through Amazon, but he has less than 1% of the world's physical sales. So he knows that he wants to get into the physical sales market, and what better way to do so than by acquiring a value-centric, a purpose-centric grocery chain like Whole Foods. And so now what's happening is, as Jeff Bezos is building out these cashierless stores, so there's gonna be 3,000 Amazon Go cashierless stores by 2021, and this is a massive this is a job retraining alert. We have so many of these job retraining alerts on this show. This one is probably one of the most powerful ones ever. Is, guys, the cashiers, the stockers, the employees at grocery stores need to be retraining today. They should have been retraining yesterday. We need to retrain into new positions, into new skill sets, into artistic, creative, critical thinking skill sets that are not repetitive work, because that work is being automated and it is gone. It's going to be gone in a decade. So please get retrained. We talk about that so much. So, and one last aspect about this that's really fascinating is that we're moving into an instant delivery economy. So now it's going to be these really high-powered drones that are delivering you the one item that you need in 30 minutes after you click the button. And it's absolutely nuts that we're moving in that direction. And places like Whole Foods become another logistics center like the Amazon warehouses are. So you can now have Whole Foods be this sort of logistics center for taking goods and delivering them locally to the people that need them the most. So it's a very interesting acquisition, and food is something that people get 3 times a day most often, and grocery is something they get once a week or however often. So this is a big deal for an acquisition of around $14 billion. Okay, next up is the Washington Post acquisition. This is another huge one. Washington Post Amazon acquisition. The amount was $250 million. So, all right, $250 million is a lot less than $14 billion. So that's actually $250 million. It's nowhere near as much, but it's not chump change. It's still a fuckload of money. And so this is coming at an interesting time, because his acquisition of the Washington Post, now we're looking at Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, acquiring Time. So what is going on with acquisition of magazines and newspapers? Why is this important to billionaires? And this is just a very interesting space. I really highly recommend we keep an eye on this space, because whatever is going on in it requires our attention. Because why is this outreach, having global outreach through a newspaper outlet, having readers? So now Jeff, in this case, has readers of Washington Post as his customers. He has his Amazon Prime members that want people that you want to deliver goods in 2 days. He has Whole Foods customers now that go and shop at these local grocery stores. So now you see where this is going. He now has readers, he has e-commerce, he has physical stores. So this is the idea, is why are people shopping for these newspaper outlets and these magazine outlets? Well, for readers and for eyeballs. And so what does this mean for the future? So let's keep an eye on this space as we move forward. Jeff has a very high, I like how he scrutinizes. He says, if you're going to become an entrepreneur, if you're going to become a political figure, if you're going to become anything in this world that requires scrutiny, you're going to have that happen to you. And you need to be ready for that scrutiny, because this isn't a walk in the park. It's not, even I get scrutiny all the time on these comment threads of people like, Alan's like horrible, he's not good, he's bad, whatever. And I really think to myself, I'm like, thank you for your feedback, because I want to know what I'm not good at. I want to know what to get better at. I'm not going to cry, whine, and get upset. I'm not going to tell you to stop commenting. And so that's what I think is weird about the current media situation, is people are getting called out for, fake news and for all this type of stuff. But really, I think it's really important to understand that you need to be willing to be scrutinized by no matter what outlets it is, in order for you to understand what you can do better, and this is kind of what Jeff Bezos is being scrutinized in some ways by people. I don't know enough information about the insensitivities to employees and insensitivities regarding employee pay inside these warehouses versus what goes on in the corporate headquarters. It seems like people are doing really well in the corporate headquarters versus the warehouses. I'm not sure about it, but scrutiny is important, to dig out the transparency, get the facts out there, so we can really figure out what's going on in the most nuance-driven way possible, and how we can best build the future. So now we're gonna end on Blue Origin. So we have Jeff's space company, Blue Origin, this is approaching $1 billion per year budget. And I think that's very important to understand how much money is being put into Blue Origin to make it successful, and why Jeff is doing it. So the reason why Jeff is building Blue Origin is because Jeff sees the next generation of space infrastructure as the most important thing for humanity, because we are approaching, in many ways, a decision. Are humans going to become static on Earth and just stay in our own dynamic state, but in stasis on Earth, have somewhere around 9 billion people just living on Earth and using the energy here and staying here? Or are we going to go and leave Earth, go to the moon, go to this outer in Earth orbit around Earth? Are we going to go to Mars? Are we going to colonize? Are we going to go to our solar system? And I think that vision is really important. Jeff said this was really interesting. He said that if we had a trillion humans living in our solar system, he said that we would have thousands of Einsteins and Beethovens and stuff like that. And I was like, could that actually be true? And what would that look like if we had a bunch of leading male and female leaders across art, music, and entrepreneurship, and all these other fields that we wouldn't necessarily have because of our limited amount of population, the limited amount of brains that get to evolve, and hearts that get to evolve, souls that get to evolve on the planet. So I like that understanding. And he also made it very clear that Amazon was built on the transportation business, the communications business, the internet business, the credit card business. And so he built Amazon on top of that infrastructure. So now he wants to open up space infrastructure to make it so young entrepreneurs can build the next generation companies on top of his space infrastructure. So that view is in itself a very giving back sort of view. And I like that. I like his mission around that. And so overall, Jeff Bezos seems to me to be a good guy, speaks about heart and intuition along with science. He understands that, he took his risk with Amazon, and he has achieved great success, and he's giving back with philanthropic efforts, giving back with building out this next generation of space infrastructure with Blue Origin. And he's working on big projects with Whole Foods and Washington Post. It's exciting stuff. Now, in terms of the nuance around employees that work in the distribution centers and how to best treat them, how to best pay them, all that kind of stuff, totally down to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to become more enlightened about how we can drive more nuanced conversation around that. I really appreciate you all tuning in to this episode of Thoughts on Jeff Bezos. It's been a lot of fun sharing this time with you. If you guys had a good time, please give us a comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to build a community of conversation. Let's do that together. Also, like you guys know, we always say go create after watching this content. Go create, go make your own blogs, your own artistic renders, your own videos, start your own businesses. Go and create. Go and make cool things, build cool things of value and meaning into the world. Thank you to Ron, our producer director. Much love to you, Ron. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.